It felt strange to sleep through the night and wake up to birdsong instead of dread. For weeks, my mornings had been a blur of tension. Coffee gone cold, checking locks twice, eyes darting at every sound outside. But that morning after Clara's arrest, the quiet felt deserved. Still there was work to do. I was in the middle of folding Andrew's laundry when Millis called. His voice was steadier than usual, but I could tell he hadn't rested. "They've set the emergency custody hearing for Friday morning," he said. "We'll need to prepare your testimony, calm, truthful, and compelling. The judge isn't looking to punish anyone. They're looking to protect Andrew." "I'm ready," I said, pressing a small shirt to my chest. "We are." "I believe you," Millis replied. "But we're not walking into this with sentiment. We're walking in with evidence. That's why I've arranged for a forensic IT specialist to join us tomorrow, someone who's pulling together the digital trail Clara left." "And what about Liana?" I asked quietly. "The real mother?" There was a pause. "Confirmed to have truly passed away." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Then we prove I'm the only parent he has." "Exactly," Millis said. "Ruth and I spent that afternoon going through every document we had. Emails Sam had sent before his death, the temporary guardianship approval, even old receipts and letters with his handwriting. Every piece mattered." While we worked, Andrew sat at the dining table coloring a picture of a house with a wide porch and sunflowers in front of it. "Is that ours?" I asked, leaning over. "No," he said, smiling shyly. "This one has a treehouse. But it's close." Later, I folded that drawing and slipped it into the folder with the legal documents. Somehow it said more about our home than anything I could say in court. That evening, while Ruth got dinner ready, I went out to the barn to check on the calves. I hadn't had time to notice how strong and healthy they'd gotten. Despite everything, the farm had survived too. I was tossing hay when I heard a voice behind me. "Didn't think I'd find you out here." I turned. David stood in the doorway, boots muddy, his shirt rolled at the sleeves like old times. There was something steadier in his posture. Less tension, more grounding. "Hey," I said, blinking through the dusty light. "What are you doing here?" "I saw the news about the woman, Clara," he said. "And I figured you'd need help with the rest of it." My throat tightened. "You always show up when I'm about to break." He smiled faintly. "Or when you're about to win." I leaned against the stall gate, suddenly unsure. There's still the hearing. And papers. And a million what-ifs. David stepped forward. "Then let me help carry them. You don't have to do this alone anymore." When I came back inside, Ruth raised an eyebrow as she watched me set out an extra plate. "David." I nodded. She gave a sly smile. "Good. That man has waited patiently in the wings. You deserve a partner who shows up." Later that night, I tucked Andrew in and he whispered, "Will you come to school next week for Parent Day?" "I wouldn't miss it," I whispered back. Outside, the night was cool and clean, the stars scattered like someone finally dared to scatter hope again. Friday was coming fast. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what the courtroom held. Because we were going in with truth. And we weren't going in alone. The courtroom had that sterile chill that seeps into your skin, where everything echoes a little too loudly and smells faintly of old paper and dust-polished wood. I sat beside Millis, who looked far too composed for the weight of what we were walking into. Across the aisle sat the county social worker and the state-appointed prosecutor assigned to Clara's case. Clara herself wasn't here, still in county custody after the school impersonation incident. I was grateful for that. I didn't want her anywhere near Andrew. Ruth had brought Andrew in through a different entrance, keeping him calm with a small sketch pad and a pack of colored pencils. She sat in the back row, arms gently wrapped around him, whispering things I couldn't hear but was sure were soothing. Millis leaned toward me. "Today's hearing is procedural. But it sets the tone. We show stability, commitment, and preparation. We don't let them control the narrative." I nodded. "Understood." And I meant it. I was ready. The judge entered. Honorable Anna Peterson, composed, observant, with short-cropped silver hair and sharp eyes that scanned the room like she'd already read between every line of every document. She struck her gavel once, crisp and clear. "We are here for an emergency review regarding custody and temporary guardianship of Andrew Bennett, minor child of the late Samuel Bennett. Let's proceed." Millis stood with a calm I envied. "Your Honor, my client Emma Bennett has been the sole guardian of Andrew since her husband's death. The child was previously left in the late Mr. Bennett's care by his biological mother, Liana, who is now deceased. My client seeks to maintain temporary custody while we proceed toward full adoption. Judge Anna's eyes didn't waver. And what prompted this emergency hearing? Millis handed over a file. A woman named Clara Anderson, formerly associated with the deceased father, impersonated my client at Andrew's school. She was arrested after gaining access to school property and attempting to extract the child without authorization. This event raised serious safety concerns. The judge reviewed the file quietly. Miss Anderson is not a relative? No, Your Honor, Millis confirmed. She has no legal claim to the child. From what we can gather, her connection was informal. She was reportedly close to Mr. Bennett prior to her passing. Her motives remain unclear. I clenched my hands in my lap. The thought of Clara walking into Andrew's school under my name still made my stomach turn. Judge Anna turned to me. Mrs. Bennett, tell me why you believe this arrangement, your guardianship, serves the best interest of the child. I stood. My palms were damp. Because I love him, I said. Because he was brought into my life by the man I married, the man I buried. And I've stood by Andrew since that day. I've held his hand through nightmares, through surgeries, through the grief he didn't understand. I didn't choose to become a mother this way, but I have chosen him every single day since. There was a stillness then, thick and full. I sat back down, heart thudding in my ears. After a short recess, Judge Anna returned with her decision. In light of the facts presented, the stability offered by the petitioner, the absence of any legal claim from Miss Anderson, and the recent security breach, I am granting continued temporary guardianship of Andrew Bennett to Mrs. Emma Bennett. This will remain in effect until adoption proceedings are completed or contested by a legal party. Relief hit me like a wave, crashing past every tightly held muscle in my body. I felt Millis relax beside me, his pen stilled. Let it be noted, Judge Anna added, that this court values stability, integrity, and above all, what serves the child's emotional and physical safety. Outside the courthouse, the summer light had returned. Warm and golden, like the universe had taken a breath alongside me. Ruth came up from behind, carrying Andrew, who had drawn a picture of our house and handed it to me as if it were a medal. I did good, he asked. You did amazing, I whispered, wrapping him in my arms. As we walked to the car, Ruth said softly, You realize this isn't the end, right? I nodded. No. But it's the start of the fight. And this time we've got the truth. And the law. And for the first time in weeks I felt like we might actually win. The farm was quiet again. Not eerily quiet like those nights the gate swung open on its own or when Clara's shadow threatened our mornings, but peaceful. Safe. The court hearing had changed everything. Judge Anna's ruling in our favor wasn't just a legal win. It was a turning point. Clara's charges, impersonation, attempted abduction, trespassing, had built a fortress of truth around us. And with Liana not alive to fight for her boy and no other contenders in sight, Millis told me we'd be filing for permanent adoption within weeks. Andrew would be mine in every sense of the word. My son. No more question marks. But what I didn't expect, what I couldn't prepare for, was what healing would look like. Came slowly. Gently. In moments that didn't announce themselves. Like when Andrew ran out onto the porch barefoot just to tell me the bees were out. Or when I caught myself laughing while folding laundry because one of his socks had a smiley face drawn inside it in marker. Healing looked like that. And it looked like David too. After the hearing, he returned with a truckload of new seedlings and an old box of Sam's tools he said he'd kept safe just in case. He approached me slowly, hesitantly as I stood in the barn doorway brushing hay off my jeans. I figured now's as good a time as any to replant, he said. You know, new season and all. I smiled without meaning to. You're late. He nodded, matching my grin. You're right. We didn't hug. Not yet. But something passed between us, some old ache settling down. He glanced toward the house where Andrew's laughter echoed through the open kitchen window. He seems happy, David said. He is. He paused, studying me. And you? I swallowed. Getting there. Later that evening, David stayed for dinner. Ruth was gone on assignment again, but she'd promised to be back for the official adoption hearing. Andrew sat beside David like he'd been waiting for him all this time. He showed off his drawings, told exaggerated stories of a snake he saw in the field, it was just a hose, and laughed so hard at David's joke about cow poop that he snorted milk from his nose. It was messy and loud and perfect. After Andrew went to bed, I stood at the porch railing, arms crossed against the cool night breeze. David joined me with 2 mugs of tea, handing me one without a word. We stood in silence for a while, just watching the stars stretch above the barn. "I've been thinking," he said eventually, "about staying around. Permanently." I looked at him. "I thought you already were." He chuckled, then turned serious. "I was always waiting for you to ask." My chest tightened, not from fear but from the strange realization that I didn't need to be alone anymore. "I'm asking now," I whispered. And that was it. The months that followed passed like pages turning. Andrew officially became my son by law and by love. The court clerk handed us the certificate with a smile, and Andrew asked if we could frame it next to Sam's photo. I kissed the top of his head and said, "Of course we can." David moved into the farmhouse that summer. Not all at once, but in pieces like a man planting roots. First his boots by the door, then his books on the shelf, and eventually his heart in my hands. By fall we'd planted a new orchard behind the barn. By winter we were married. And a year later, 2 new names were written in our family Bible. Ella and Jonah, our children, born into a home that had been shaped by sorrow but rewritten with grace. I sometimes still sit on the same porch, hands wrapped around a warm mug, and think about how it all began, with a funeral, a letter, and a secret child. I think about the woman I was, the man Sam was, the boy Andrew became. But mostly I think about the life we built out of the ashes. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. But it was ours. And it was beautiful. The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my story, don't forget to like and hit subscribe. You will also enjoy other stories on AJ Family Drama. Until next time, bye.